Are you ready for us? Whew, we did it. We're going to go ahead and call this special Board of Education meeting to order. We'll begin with the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Is there any, well, I guess I should have asked if there was any discussion about the agenda. And then you're going to, okay. Whew, we're trying to get our act together here. So we're going to start with new business tonight, and that is the presentations of the superintendent search firms. Lance, do you want to speak into this for us? Okay.
Thank you, President Nixon. Good evening, board members, audience. This evening, we're very pleased. We have two finalist search firms. The first one is McPherson and Jacobson, or M&J, or Mac and Jake, and we have two representatives that are here in person, Dr. Joel and Dr. Buck. And I think I'll turn it over to Dr. Joel at this time, and he can introduce, I think he has two other colleagues that are going to join us via Zoom or whatever Todd has set up.
So we're going to ask everyone to use their microphones tonight so that our board members that are online can hear us. Does that help you guys when we talk into the microphone?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Stout. Appreciate it. My name is Steve Joel. I'm a recovering superintendent in my fourth year of recovery. I 37 years as a superintendent, last 12 in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been with McPherson Jacobson for the last 25 years, and I'm the Midwest director for the company. So you'll see in a couple of minutes we've got a pretty good footprint in this part of the country with these. Let me introduce then Dr. Buck.
Yes, I'm David Buck. I'm your next door neighbor at Lee Summit School District. It's my 30th year in education, 24 years in administration, and 11 years as a superintendent. And I know Mac and Jake from the other end of this. They're the ones who did the search in Lee Summit 6 years ago when I was hired. So I know the process very well, and I'm very excited to be here to help share about it, and maybe we can help you as well.
Well, we're looking forward to assisting you in what is arguably the most important function of a board, and that is to identify and work with the next superintendent. There's a lot at stake. We know that. We've done about more than 1,000 searches. Dr. Judy Sklarstein is the third member of our team. She's based out of St. Louis, and she led the Lee Summit search that brought in Dr. Buck, and she's going to be working with us. So we put together the A team of consultants with McPherson Jacobson, and we're excited to present to you. You have a packet in front of you that is comprehensive in nature. We're not going to go over that. I appreciate Dr. Stout providing some questions, and we're going to cover those very, very quickly in the PowerPoint, and then we want to leave some time at the end. We know we only have 30 minutes, so we want to leave some time at the end for you to ask any questions that you might have. So about us, we're about kids. I've been involved in about 70 searches in the last 15 or 20 years, and I can tell you it's magic when a board and a superintendent and a community and a staff come together around this most important job that you have. But our mission is to make sure that it's a successful search and that your students and your staff, and again your parents, are the beneficiaries. We're a well-established national firm. We've got 130 consultants. We're a national firm, which means that we do searches in just about all the states. I keep waiting for Hawaii to call. They haven't. But that'd be the only state, I think, that we haven't done a search in. So we've got a pretty good footprint around the country. We customize every search based on what you need. We are your arm to candidates, but we're also your arm to your community and to your staff. We believe in authentic engagement with stakeholders. At the end of the day, one of the most important things that can happen through a superintendent search is that you come together as a unit around the most important function that you have, but also your community does too. And so we'll talk very, very briefly the importance of that. And then track record of successful placement. So, it's no secret. There just aren't, you don't list it and they come anymore. We have to be recruiters, and then we have to work after the fact with superintendents and boards to make sure success is preeminent. There's our map. We've been all over the country. It's been sort of fun to watch our model evolve. We started on a napkin, in a couple of small districts in Kansas and Nebraska, and since then we've really done a lot of searches, and very, very proud of the work. There's our we've introduced ourselves. Here's the difference. We think, we believe, and we hear this, and I think you'll hear Dr. Buck say this, we are trusted as consultants. And because we're former superintendents and HR directors, and in some cases board members, we develop authentic relationships, not only with you, but with candidates. They trust us, we're honest, we're transparent, we don't play games, we don't have a stable. What we do is we make sure that we set up a process that's designed for them to meet what it is that you're looking for. If you look at our packet, you'll see that sustainability of leadership is our hallmark. We have a very, very high percentage of our superintendents that stay 5 years, a really high percentage that stay 10 or more. And because of our model and how hard we work, not only during the search, but after the search, our superintendents really, they stay. And we know this, and I say this to every board that I'm working with, and I'll say it to you. Superintendents have to be on the job 5 years. If they're not on the job 5 years, it's very, very difficult to move the needle. So we built our model around that 5-year tenure. Now, it doesn't always work out that way for various reasons, but we know that if they stay 5 years, they're there. We talked about the high degree of stakeholder involvement. Stakeholders will work on your behalf. They will appreciate being involved in this process. And again, Dr. Buck and myself, you want to speak to that?
And so I can tell you, going through the process, I've had 12 people work for me that have gone to become a superintendent. And none of them went through a Mac and Jake process where they knew not only what the board was looking for, but what the community wanted. I can tell you, at Lee Summit, I did. There was many, many, many engagements that helped create that leadership profile with the Board of Education. And then during the interview process, I can tell you that there was multiple rooms that I had community members or parents in rooms during the interview process. So I knew, because you got to remember, the interview, it's a two-way interview. You're going to be interviewing candidates for the next superintendent of Independent School District, but they're also interviewing you to see if this is a place to be. And I can tell you that was a wonderful thing. Even my spouse was involved in our process. You can do that as well, where she was part of a dinner with the Board of Education, because it is a family decision. When I came, my wife and I and our family who were coming, right? And we go to the Summit Waves Pool in Lee Summit. My wife's identity is part of it is, hey, you're Dr. Buck's wife, right? So that's an important piece too, that you involve people. So we'll tailor and do it however you want, but I can tell you as a former candidate that went through the Mac and Jake process, I really appreciated, I got a full view of what the district was from afar.
Thank you, Dr. Buck. So we're transparent. There are no secrets. There are no games. We have to be confidential with regard to candidate attraction and then ultimately vetting. But at the end of the day, we'll keep you updated on what's happening with the search. Some of you may have some names of some people in Missouri. Certainly Dr. Buck is going to know, and Dr. Sclair Stein are going to know a lot about the Missouri candidate pool, but not necessarily, right? That your next person is going to be Missouri. If you bring us in, you're going to get national coverage in a pretty significant way. We work only for you. We don't work for candidates, and I have to emphasize that. There is no pulling somebody from a search we did 3 years ago and say we've got another opportunity. We don't do that. So for us, every search stands on its own merits, and everyone is unique. And that's the fun part of it for us as consultants, is that we don't really know exactly what we're going to end up with, because that's where the work has to be. Extensive educational partnerships. We're very connected in the state of Missouri. I've spoken a couple of different times. I'm a nobody in Missouri compared to Dr. Buck and Dr. Sclair Stein, but I can tell you, we are well connected in all the states with associations and with a lot of the superintendents that we know, and a lot of that's through our national connections. And then we stand on the strength of our references. So hopefully you've been checking on our references. A couple of years ago I did Gardner Edgerton, Kansas. That superintendent's still doing a great job there, and other searches in the area as well. All right, so we have 5 phases. I'm just going to gloss over these. Sorry about that. So phase 1, we come back, we meet with you. You then help us identify what it is that you're seeking. And through that, we'll begin to learn the culture of your district. We'll also then, and something that we've started to do, and we want to talk to you about this at our first meeting, is we're having boards say to us now, go find out what the community thinks and the staff thinks, and bring us that data first so that you can analyze it. If you have an interest in that, that seems to be working in some other districts. But in phase one, we're going to set up the calendar. We're going to ask you, what do you need for a superintendent to be successful? We want to develop a profile that when we make a phone call or somebody calls us, we can say independence is an opportunity that you really need to pursue. And we think with your size and location, and I'm learning more and more about all the great things happening in the Kansas City area, we think that this will be a very attractive spot. So phase two is we meet with those stakeholder groups. Now, we do it a couple of different ways. We like to do one-on-ones with each one of the members of the board. We like to do it in preliminarily, as soon as we're hired, just to find out, what are you thinking in terms of the work and the people. And then we want to connect with your admin team, your teachers, your certified staff, your non-certified staff, your community, and we never forget students. We feel like students are a very, very important part of this. And honestly, those are the meetings that we look forward to. So we get that. We bring you that information. It's sort of like a needs assessment, if you will, of what does the community think today with regard to the independent school district. And certainly it's about the search too, but you'll get some very, very viable information, sort of a report card. And again, we don't schmooze that over. We want to be honest with you because it's really about hiring a superintendent going forward as opposed to looking backwards. So whatever's in the past is in the past because now it's the dawn of a new era. So that's, and then phase three, this is every consulting firm has to get this right. That's the referencing, that's the vetting, that's making sure that the candidates are who they say they are. We don't ever want to bring anybody to you that we haven't fully vetted. And I can just tell you, we do a preliminary interview with every viable applicant, and the last question we ask them, are there any skeletons in your closet? Because we know this, on the night that we come to present candidates to you, you're going to start Googling them. And if you find something that we didn't find, that's embarrassing. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. That's phase four. It's phase three. Phase four is really, we bring the candidates to you. It's set up the interview process. We handle all of the applications. We handle all of the communication. We like to keep names confidential until such time that we have to produce them publicly. And then we ask the finalists to produce a video so that you can actually see who they are and you can put a face with a resume. And by the way, resumes all look great today. People are having them professionally done. It's really what's underneath the resume that matters the most. And so from that, we'll work you through a process on who you're most interested in bringing in for a formal interview, and then we'll help you establish that interview process. Phase five, so that gets you to superintendent, right? You make that selection. One of your questions was, what about service after the fact? Well, this is the one that, quite frankly, I introduced to McPherson Jacobson when I was a superintendent because we need to be with you and that superintendent for an entire year after they come. And so one of the things that we build into our bid is a planning retreat with you and the new superintendent 30, 40 days after they begin to really identify first-year performance objectives. What are the measurables? A lot of them's going to flow off of that profile, but even more importantly, some team building so that you and the new superintendent can get to know each other and begin to craft that working relationship.
We did the exact same thing at Lee Summit when they hired me through the Mac and Jake process. And not only did we do what are our goals, we also made commitments and how we were going to work together. And so big deal for Lee Summit at that time was, hey, what do we do when we disagree? Well, that's part of our commitments is, hey, we need every voice to be heard. But then once we make a decision, we're all behind it, 8 of us, the 7 board members and superintendent. It doesn't matter that it might be 4-3 or 7-0. Once we have consensus, we're committed to that consensus. And so that was one of the things that came out of our commitment in literally the first month. And it was invaluable to me and to the school board members as we try to figure out how to navigate those worlds. Because you got to remember that we were entering COVID right then, right? COVID started February. I got hired in January. COVID started February, and I started July in the middle of COVID. So there was a lot of opinions in 2020. So we needed to have that piece. Mac and Jake, Judy Starstein, who is on here, we were hoping she could talk, and unfortunately couldn't get that part to work. She led that piece with Lee Summit School District, and it was invaluable.
So that gets you a superintendent and a year's worth of support with that superintendent. And then as Dr. Buck and Dr. Schleierstein and myself have found, we often get invited back into districts to continue to do that every year. We're big promoters of that annual board retreat with the superintendent to look at last year's goals and achievements and then set new goals and achievements, because that way, when you know what the targets are every year, superintendents have a tendency to stay. Which, by the way, I will tell you, money matters not as much as a lot of people think. What really matters is the board. What really matters is the community. What matters is the work. Good superintendents, quality superintendents, don't want to come someplace and mark time. They want to come to a district where they can make a difference. And they can only make a difference if they have a great working relationship with you. And so that really is how we view our role. Our package is bid at $25,900. You can see in there that gets you phases 1 through 5. We used to offer phase 5 as an option. We don't anymore, because we just feel like if we're going to guarantee the search, we'll put a 2-year guarantee on the search, which means, we've never had to pay off on it, but which means that if for any reason the superintendent leaves, then we come back and we do the search at our costs. Hope is we don't ever have to do that. We never have. But sometimes something can happen medically too. That has happened in a few other states. Advertising outline, you can see it in the proposal. We'll work with you on that. David's and myself, we're members of ASSA, Education Week. We'll talk to you about ALAS and NAPSI in terms of, we've now got pretty good competitive pricing for that. 1 day of stakeholder feedback gathering. We'll come for 1 full day, and we'll meet with anybody that you want us to meet with. And if we can do one-on-ones with you, great. We'll meet with your admin team, your cabinet folks. If you'd like, we'll do an open community forum someplace in Independence, maybe at the Truman Museum, which I've never visited before. You can invite, we would invite everybody in the public to come participate in this process. Again, we're trying to build capacity, and we're trying to let people know that this is the most important decision Independence can make in a long time. We partner with K-12 Insight. We're going to collect as many voices as we can humanly collect regarding this process. And the partnership with K-12 Insight is an online platform that will be open for about 2 weeks. And through your website and perhaps whatever other communication vehicles you have, we'll be able to, I'll just go out on a limb and say we'll get 2,500 people that will submit online survey information that you can use. That will definitely help support that profile. We're going to present to you the stakeholder feedback. We'll do that at one of your board meetings. We need about 15 minutes. We'll give you a copy of it that you can put on your website. We share the stakeholder feedback with the candidates so they know what they're looking, what they will get when they become a candidate. In other words, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities? We now do, this is our 2nd year of leadership behavior assessments. That's built into this too, which really is, on our finalists, it's really about developing a personality profile on them so that you can see what are they really good at, what are their triggers, what are their non-negotiables, what do they like to do, what do they not like to do. If they're not a good people person, if that shows up, you probably aren't interested in them. But that's a big difference in a lot of our searches. Video interviews of selected candidates, and we do all the background checking, criminal, financial, educational. And then that bid includes, and by the way, that's a not to exceed amount, that bid then includes visits to the school district. I talked about, I don't want to spend any time because I want to give you a chance to ask some questions, but we do an awful lot with districts after successful searches, and you can see what those are, and including strategic planning is one that we've just launched into, and a lot of districts have been taking advantage of that. We've got some great partnerships out there. Innovate K-12 on the strategic planning side, K-12 Insight. You might be a K-12 Insight school district, which is a communications platform. Districts, they're in about 40% of the districts in the country. They give us this at virtually no cost to you, which is a benefit to us as well. Okay, so with that, in my last 2 minutes, I talked about the fee structure. I have a sample calendar here that I put together, and if I may, I'm just going to have I only brought 4 copies, but we looked at, and this was done sort of like on the fly. But we looked at starting September 25th, the dates or the parameters that you had. And the goal would be that would be our first meeting with you. That's about a 2 to 3 hour meeting. October 15 to December 3, we want to advertise for about 6 weeks. And during that advertising period, we do recruiting. And one of the things that David will do and Judy will do and I'll do is we'll call the people that we know and trust that work in your associations and say who's on their way up the ladder and who can we begin to have conversations with. In October, we'd like to come back in, and again, these dates are very random. That's when we want to finish up the stakeholder gathering and feedback. Late October, November, a board meeting where we give you the feedback. We develop interview questions, which, by the way, we don't use a bank. You're going to, when you work with us, you give us the questions that you're interested in asking, and then we put them into a format that makes a lot of sense. We'll talk to you about interview procedures. We do some coaching if you haven't gone through something like that before. We'll help you with compensation package. And then with regard to if you choose to use those stakeholder groups for feedback gathering during the interview cycle, we'll work with the designated chairs of those groups. And a lot of the districts that we work with do that. They have a student group, they have a community group, they have a parent group, and those are very, very effective. And again, they don't make the decision you do, but they provide some feedback in terms of what they see. We close the applications on December 3. Late December, early January, we come back to you then for that final meeting with the list of candidates that most closely align with what you and the community and staff have told us they're interested in. And then we work with you on a process to narrow down those finalists. Mid-January interviews, late January, early February, you select your next superintendent. And then the starting date is, typically July 1 in Missouri and Kansas and Nebraska. But a lot of times a sitting superintendent gets a job and the board says, hey, if you want to start early there, you can start early there too. I mean, if you had an interest in that, we know you have an interim. So that's the calendar. And the nice thing about starting now is you're going to be in the arena first. Because come January, come February, that's when we get that backlog of searches. So I talked about you. We learn your culture. We know a little bit about it now, but we'll learn it from you. We'll learn it from your community, and we'll be able to share that with candidates in terms of what you're looking for. And every community and school district is different. What have we found to be helpful in the process? Here's, without question, what I take when I leave a district. If you've come together and really begin to focus on the most important thing, which is helping your superintendent and ultimately you become successful, this has been a great search. The next question is, what about boards with different opinions? Wow, okay. I don't know that I've ever worked with a board that doesn't have board members with divergent opinions. We're all about coming out as a unit if we can, but that doesn't always happen. But at the end of the day, we structure our model to make sure there's plenty of conversation. And everybody's opinion is important. I talked about the follow-up, and then the guarantee is a 2-year guarantee through take phase 5. It's a 2-year guarantee, and we stand by that. And we think that this would be a great opportunity for our company, for the 3 of us, but even more importantly for you, because we think you're going to get some good candidates, and that's exciting. So, Dr. Buck?
I'll add 2 more things. One, if you choose Mac and Jake, I'm right next door even after the search. So I'm here for an ear for whoever you hire to help out, to be a helping hand, because to me, that's what we need to be, right? Mr. Rock, I'm doing convocation tomorrow at Cable Dime Arena here in Independence. I will have, Mr. Rogers up on the screen behind me for part of my speech, because that's what we are. We're the people growing people business, and my personal mission is that every kid grows up to be an adult. You'd be proud to call your next door neighbor. They can take care of themselves, right? And they can help others when they have the opportunity to and ability to. You're a good citizen, you can take care of yourself, you can provide for yourself. Those are the 2 big things for me. And I want you to be successful in doing that, just like I want us to be successful in Lee Summit doing that, and it'd be an honor to be part of the search to help you find that person.
We have 4 minutes. Whew. So, questions?
I have a question. You mentioned, good, right? Your percentage who have stayed for 5 years and 10 years. Do you know what those numbers actually are?
They're high, like 80% or 85%. It's in the packet. It's in the book. You'll see it in the booklet. And I think they even do a listing by state. So, you know, I didn't look at that before I came, but it's high. It's very, very high. Which, by the way, when I say 80%, that's not perfect, right? But the average tenure for a superintendent in this country is like 3.3 or 3.4. So if you believe in you need to be better than the average, we're significantly better than the average. Any other questions?
Mine isn't necessarily a question, but just a comment. I appreciate at the beginning of your presentation, you said the most important thing is us coming together. So I just appreciate any strategies and tools you'd have to help us make that happen.
No, thank you.
I have another one, I'm sorry. Did anybody else want to go? And I don't know if this has been decided yet, but I heard that the city is also obviously looking for search firms for the city manager, and I'm not sure if that's been decided. Are you all in that mix?
We are, but I don't believe anybody's reached out to us from that, but we have done those searches as well.
Okay.
Including some college searches, I mean, but honestly, my preference is the K-12 space.
Yeah. Would it be a conflict to do both if that were to come up?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. It depends on like how you would perceive that, right? But we're talking about completely different groups of people.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's interesting that they're looking for a city manager and superintendent at the same time. I mean, those two are going to be good friends.
Yeah. We hope.
Anything else? Anybody else?
When it comes down to that selection process, can you explain a little bit about how you might rank or go through that process with us in deciding what candidates would be the best fit?
Okay, so what we do, imagine it's that night. And again, I don't know if we can do that in closed session or open session. So if it's open session where the public can come in, that's fine. We do a lot of those. We make sure the candidates know that their name is going to be made public. And then when we come in, we're going to bring you the completed applications. We're going to bring you a review of our reference checking. If it's public, we have to focus on the positive, right? But there are other ways to get to that. Quite frankly, the folks that we're going to bring in are not going to have a lot of negatives. And then we're going to talk about each of the candidates in alphabetical order. And then we're going to show you their video. You're going to have their packets. You can make annotations. You can make comments. And then when we're done, let's say we bring you 5 people and you want to interview 3, we'll work you through a narrowing process. And what we really, it's just a consensus building. We use a rubric, everybody gets a vote, and then that's how we make the selection. And again, if we don't have to make that selection process public, it's a little bit better, but we also have I've done a lot of searches in Florida where your votes get public recorded, requested, and so that's all part of it as well too. So we have a bunch of different ways to get to that, but at the end of the day, we really want consensus. And consensus doesn't necessarily have to be a unanimous vote, but we need to have unanimous support because superintendents have too many choices today. And when we're done with our work with you, to your question, is we want to know what those issues are that are obstacles for you to work forward, and can we address them through this process, and I think we can.
The leadership profile you put together is going to be key. So, you know, we're going to bring you applicants to consider, and you choose how many you want to interview out of that. That's going to be who we think has a chance to meet that leadership profile. And then when it comes to the actual selection of the person, again, we're going to be referring to that leadership profile because that's what you told us you want. And so we're going to try to keep guiding that conversation back to you guys come to consensus. All right, we think this is the candidate that meets it the best.
Any other questions? I want to be totally mindful of the 5 o'clock ending point. Okay, with that, let me just close by saying this. We stand ready to work with you in this most important endeavor. We've got a proven track record of success, and we've got a lot of experience in this part of the country and all over the country. I want to say thank you for your service as school board members. And, as somebody that has, I think I've done 10 board retreats this summer, and a couple more left to go. I can tell you that the challenges that board members have within themselves and their communities and in their states are real. And it's making it hard, which is also why recruiting is so important, because I think your next superintendent has no inkling that they're about to apply for something. Because if they're in a good spot, it's going to take a lot to get them dislodged. And that's our job. Our job is to get them, identify them, get them dislodged, and make sure that we can profile the kind of opportunity that Dr. Buck and I were talking about on the way over here that we think that this represents. So with that, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for giving us 30 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Stout, for the questions and the guidance.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've allotted some time to have some discussion. So we'll give that just one quick second, and then we'll get that started. Does anybody have any discussion that they want to talk about?
I was interested to find out that their fifth year seems to now be included in the
Yeah.
price. I don't think it was originally, maybe when we looked at that, so
Yeah.
that's a very important step in my mind. A year and even beyond any kind of wraparound services, so.
Yeah.
I like the depth that they go into when they talk about stakeholder input, the variety of stakeholders, and also that they will provide that summary report. And I would really be interested in just looking at that data, but also they will provide in multiple languages as well.
And just for everybody's knowledge, I did just find it in their packet, but over the last 5 years, almost 80% of administrators are in the position for which they were hired, and almost 60% of administrators are still in the position for which they were hired within the past 10 years. And then 40% are 15 years.
I was noticing that it does seem that they do have some things in their proposal that are kind of a la carte. And so it's kind of am I understanding that they were saying that up to that amount that they'll guarantee that it won't go above it? Is that what you guys were saying? Does anybody know anything about the K-12 Insight? No. Todd, you don't know anything about it? We obviously don't use that service.
Were you talking about, like on page 21 of the proposal, additional services available?
On page 20 at the bottom is where it
Yes.
says a total not to exceed
Yeah.
25,900. That does beg the question, the additional services.
Right. So like he was talking about in advertising, like when they go to advertise, I think that's an additional cost that's outside of his proposal. They're just talking about their fees and their structures. Lance, I'm sorry, we're bringing you in on something. We were question. Go ahead.
Sorry, specifically to the advertising piece, the underneath, or it's within the main quote, it gives like 30 days on certain places, but then at the bottom it says expenses may increase if additional advertising or alternative advertising venues are chosen. So it looks like outside of those things listed would be additional.
Can you use your microphone? I'm sorry.
That is my understanding, not to exceed the 25.9. I did just visit with those gentlemen, thank them for their time. And one of the comments they made to me right at the end is that they would be willing to price match if that's what it came down to. And I said I'd share that with the Board of Education.
Thank you. This talked about stakeholder meetings. It says 2 days of in-person stakeholder meetings, but didn't he say 1 day in his presentation? Yeah. So that's an interesting, because I actually made a note about that it was, they'll do whatever they want on 1 day.
But it even says if the district requests additional stakeholder input days, there would be an additional fee. Right, because.
Yeah. I mean, I very specifically wrote 1 day of stakeholder feedback. And remember he was saying how, that could be however we want, whether it be a forum or individual meetings. Maybe he did.
Yeah, that's what I would just see. Yeah, the book is, it's what's in print. I think we could say we need 2 days.
Yeah.
And then over here on page 21, it does talk about the institutional services. So creating a brochure for vacancy, attending candidate interviews, like those are all additional things. Does that mean those are additional costs? Sorry, you guys aren't able to see this, what they provided us. I apologize for that. Yeah, I mean, right here it says that, page 21.
And don't
Right
forget
next
to use
it.
your mics, please.
Yeah. On page 21, all of those things seem to be additions to, those are additional services that are available, but those are not included in that listing on page 20.
And for Denise and Blake, this seems to be the same packet that we received about a month ago when we first looked at them. So if they want to follow along, it should be the same.
Thank you.
Okay, so if they create a brochure for the vacancy, personality strengths assessment, those things do cost more, 500, 750. $1,200 if we even wanted them to do those things. I really appreciated the emphasis that he put on consensus and community involvement and how they would be willing to truly, seek out the best of the candidate and what we want in this community. I really do appreciate that outlook. He understands seemingly the importance of a community agreeing on the next leader, opposed to it just being 7 people saying, hey, I like that person. Even student involvement with family involvement too. I think that was really impressive to hear. So.
There was also talk about translators being made available too, and I didn't, so that's something that would be really important too.
I think really, really important for sure. That I have a feeling that maybe there could be some not native English speaking families that have an opportunity to feel more prioritized when we do focus on their specific languages and not just Spanish. So I don't know if that's a question we can ask, if there's more languages that could be addressed or offered for translating.
I was impressed with just McPherson and Jacobson will work with the district to obtain the necessary translators. So I think that is anybody that would need a translation from English, they would help us do that. I mean, I know we've got some in-house, but they also have time. And we'll let them pay for it. Yes. Yeah.
Anything else, Denise or Blake, that you want to share? Yeah. They did say they would price match. I somewhat suspect that they're price matching outside of those additional services. Like, they're yeah.
Denise, it says that on page 23 as well, so I did figure out it's in the packet too, that they would price match.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't know that we have specifically told them that MSBA is the second vendor. We decided to allow them both to make their own presentations without telling them who was the other vendor. Yes. Hello. Welcome, and get settled, and then we're ready for you.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you so much for this opportunity to speak before you and to share with you the MSBA. I call it the advantage of the MSBA superintendent search. So we're looking forward to that tonight. I know we're on a short time frame, so we're going to keep it right to it. Also, I did want to thank you for the questions that were sent to us. So helpful, and we've embedded them into the presentation. Excuse me. Stuck right there. So first, let me introduce everyone. So I'm Jeanette Coward. I am the retired superintendent from the Park Hill School District, so I have seen several of you around. I currently work with MSBA, and I'll get this tickle out of my throat in a second to do that.
Would
But
you be willing to put your microphone closer? We've got
How
some.
about I do that? Can I do that for you?
Yes.
How about that? I'll
We've
do
got some
that.
board members that are attending virtually.
Oh,
I should have told
perfect.
you that. So
Perfect.
they're listening and watching your presentation.
Perfect. Well, let's start again. So my name is Dr. Jeanette Coward. I'm the retired superintendent for Park Hill, and I am also a superintendent liaison for the Missouri School Board Association, and it is my privilege to also work for them on their superintendent searches. And so I'll be leading this search for you, would be my role in this. So I would be your main contact as we do this. I do want to introduce my other members of the team. So Trent?
Good evening. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Dr. Trent Brenmeyer, administrator in Iowa. And I've led searches around the Midwest actually for about the last 14 years. I would tell you the last couple searches I led down here in Missouri was St. Joe's last spring and Hannibal in the spring as well, also Gallatin and a few others. But I would just mention that and thrilled for the opportunity to serve your district here.
And then Catherine Harrison, happy to be back. It's good to see all of you. And so I work for Missouri School Boards Association. I'm one of the board trainers and would help with your all's follow-up supports after the superintendent search. And then we can't get the clicker to work. I don't know if you guys have suggestions.
Recommendations for this? There we go.
It looks like it's on.
Looks like it's on.
Oh. It's okay.
They took the batteries. No, they didn't. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Dirty trick.
You think we're good now?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
All right.
I'll hand it to you.
Thanks. All right, and then just a little bit about the Missouri School Boards Association. I think what's special about hiring us to do a superintendent search or selecting us to do a superintendent search is we are the only association in the state of Missouri that is governed by school board members, and everything we do is literally for school board members. I think that's what makes us unique. And then also, part of using us for your superintendent search would include these wraparound services because our expertise is professional development for school boards. You all would get the benefit of all of that included with your superintendent search. And then just a little bit of facts about what we've done since we've been doing superintendent search. So 40 years of actually doing superintendent searches, so that's a long time. Over 600 superintendent searches have been conducted, and then we've had 0 contracts terminated or had to enter into litigation. So just a couple key areas right there.
Okay, and I want to talk to you just briefly, and I want to give us an overview first, and then Trent and Catherine and I will divide this up a little bit to go more in depth about what this search will look like for you. And so I think it's always important to start out with the district's mission of what you have. And I really do love the vision statement, particularly around community united, because I really feel like this is an opportunity to bring your community together and to bring the board together. And one of the questions we had is, how do you make sure that we have a good fit for our community? We're going to talk to you about that when we get down to how we get our feedback and how we get information. But boy, it starts, frankly, with you. What is the board looking for? What does the board want in a superintendent? So we want to understand that and then bring that all together for you. So when you talk about a superintendent search, we're going to talk about the planning, we're going to talk about the recruiting, the screening process, the hiring process, and what I think is unique really is talking about the post-search supports that we're going to provide for you. So Trent, do you want to talk a little bit about our planning, please?
Yes, thanks, Jeanette. Appreciate it. One thing that you'll see in our proposal, hopefully, and we want to answer for you tonight, is you asked some key questions about unifying the board and how do you understand what a good fit is for independent school district. And I think this really is the start. When we talk about it, we front load our process with establishing and trying to uncover what does fit look like for what type of leader you need, not just for your district, but your larger community. And when we can get the board unified on that, the rest of the process, I'm not going to say is easy, but it's more objective, right? Because now we know what we're looking for. So when we're out recruiting, we start screening, we're holding you accountable to the things that you said up front before we had names. Now we start to figure out what kind of candidates are the best fit for you. So it really starts with this planning process. And this would be as soon as MSBA was hired, we would outline things like salary and benefits, timeline, so your stakeholders know what the process is and when the new superintendent would be hired, so you can think about a smooth transition, hopefully, and all of those details so we can recruit and answer those candidate questions as well. So those would be some key pieces in the planning process. And then I want to, where's the clicker again? Thank you. I want to mention this because I think this is unique. You specifically talked and asked us about community involvement in that unification process. One way we can aid you in doing that is getting a stakeholder survey out to your community and your staff and get as much feedback as possible from people in what's going well in the district, what's your points of pride, what are your opportunities for improvement right now, and then what are people saying they're looking for in the next superintendent. it's not their job to hire the superintendent, but they're informing you and giving you feedback up front. Then we analyze that feedback, and let me back up. We can also do specific focus group meetings to also get input from different stakeholder groups on top of that survey. So between the survey, focus groups, you get a lot of transparent communication through us to provide a thorough report back to you. And in that conversation, when we bring you that data back, you as the board, your privilege and responsibility to hire the superintendent, you really solidify or confirm these are the top qualifications we're looking for, so that we can go out and recruit for you, and then again be objective throughout the process, from recruiting to writing screening questions to screening candidates to even making an offer in the end. Back to what you said initially was the fit. The survey, the focus groups, all of those things to get input up front will help us be objective and lead a good process from the start. So now I'm going to transition into step 2, as Jeanette mentioned there, and that is the recruiting process. And you see quite a list here of national recruiting, state recruiting, and then additional recruiting. I want to highlight just a couple, because some of those are typical spots that you would post a lot of jobs, others that are unique that I think separate MSBA a bit. One of those would be a new partnership with NAS, the National Association of School Superintendents. Have a strong partnership, and we are one of the only organizations that can post and recruit through the NAS organization. So we think that's a supreme advantage for your district. Social media is big. We actively recruit on there. And then the other one I want to mention that is really critical is the active recruiting that takes personal phone calls and just work. Because some of your best candidates, I can look in the eyes and tell you, aren't looking for jobs. It's going to take a phone call and convincing them to look at independence. And they're going to say why and what are they offering. And we want to be able to answer those questions clearly so they'll strongly consider coming here and leading your district. I'm going to kick it back to Jeanette to talk about another advantage of us, which is the SLT program around the state.
Right. As I talked about superintendent liaisons, one of the things that the Missouri School Board Association has done has hired 10 retired superintendents statewide. So we reach every place from Kennett, Missouri, all the way to the far corners of Northwest Missouri. And when Trent was talking about those connections and making those phone calls, that's part of this advantage, is calling these people. You're the 14th largest school district in the state of Missouri. You've got 1,400 students here. This is a great job. So we really want to push and get you the very, very best. But as Trent said, sometimes it does take that personal phone call in order to get that for you. And so we want to do that. So we just want to point out, because we think that is also a unique advantage that we have, because these are people that already have the relationships. And that is a key piece for you in the state. But then also we will do all the national search parts too. The other part that I want to talk about is just what it looks like for you whenever we do the superintendent search. Of course, it'll be on the MSBA website. And so this is just a sample of what that looks like and what that's going to be. The other part that I think is critically important, and this is not your data for now, so this is just draft, so please don't take this in. If we just turn off, there we go. But this is really what your posting is going to look like. And this is really what candidates are going to read first. So they want to know, what are the qualifications? What does the contract look like? What are some of the demographics? Who's on the board? There's some suggestions I would have around the board, even to make a short video to introduce yourself and to welcome people and to have them introduce yourself to them so they want to apply for you here. But when you talk about your qualifications, what you want to have, how many years of experience are you looking for? Do they need to have a doctorate? What are those key things that you're looking for as a board that will best fit the independent school district? So we want to give you an example of that. But again, if we were hired, this would be one of the first things we would do, is go through this process with the board and identify what is important for you. Everything from residency on down. It's all of that. And then the next part on page 2, and I think, Trent, I think we run back to you right now, because we do want to talk about just the search process a little bit more in depth for you.
You bet. So you might be interested in some of the statistics, and we just want to feel. Thank you. Sorry.
It's hard to lean back and see that and keep up with you guys.
Yeah, and this is last year's numbers, so just letting you know that up front. You can see there that the average number of applicants we've had from smaller districts to obviously larger districts is 14. We anticipate this will be a destination job for a lot of candidates that like your district and like your area, so we would work hard to make sure you had at least 14 or more qualified candidates. 41% of our candidates were from out of state. So just to search stat there, 63% had a doctorate degree, which, in a lot of districts, and this one too, that might be a requirement or for sure a preferred qualification. 36% female candidates, which we're very proud of. I believe the national average is about 21 or 23%. And then 8% of candidates in our pool are minority candidates that we work hard to recruit as well to align to your demographics. So we will work hard to meet and exceed those, but I want to be real transparent that those are our numbers from last year. And then the next thing, thank you, Catherine. I can summarize this slide fairly clearly from recent numbers as well. If you look at the middle there, our superintendent searches last year, 27% of our new superintendent hires had previous superintendent experience, but 55% had some central office. So that could be assistant sup, director level experience, deputy superintendent, but high level district office leadership experience. And you should expect that here, that level of experience as well to lead an organization this large. But I wanted to just be transparent on the norms and the trends in the state as you start your superintendent search as well.
And then we get to stage 3, which is the screening. We actually have a handout for you that we are going to provide to you to talk about this. The screening really has several processes, from reviewing the applicants to presenting to, I don't know why this keeps going off. The board will see every applicant. I think that's very important for you to know, that you will have that opportunity. We'll help you narrow that down, create those formal questions for you, conduct those initial interviews for you in the screenings, and then help with the final and formal interviews for you too. The document that you have in front of you, the first one talks about presenting the candidates to you by tiers. And so one of the things we will do, we'll let that get passed around here real quickly, because I think this is very unique, and this is an opportunity for you. We're not going to tell you who it is that you should hire. We're going to tell you who it is that is the most qualified and matches your requirements. So we literally put them in green, yellow, and red for you. And so, and the red doesn't mean don't ever hire them, but they may not have their certification. There might be certain things that they do not have for you, but this really helps you start to put them in groups so that you can understand where you want to be on them. And then if you turn that over, the other piece that's very unique for us, reading through applications is very tiring and can be very complicated, because what they're doing, we actually provide a summary to you about every candidate. So you'll get a one-page summary on every candidate, from their background information about what they have, their current role, and their current salary, because those are going to be key pieces that we'll have to talk about around negotiations. And the other piece is who are the references, and we're going to go into references just a little bit more later, but please know we're always looking for no less than 5. And then Trent's going to share with you a couple of things that we do that are different so that we really get great references for you.
Yeah, thank you. And I know this is one of the questions, actually question 4 you asked, so we wanted to hit it directly. We do a couple different things on references, but the key piece to the references aren't probably the ones that they submit with their application. We expect that. And I'll be honest with you, we read them, we review them, but the ones we really key in on are the confidential references that we make. And as Jeanette mentioned, we try to have 5 on every candidate before we present them. Combination of calls, emails, references. We think that's important to vet people above and beyond the letters that they submit. So that's important, and we do that. Criteria that we look for on the reference form: how long has somebody worked with them, in what capacity, what are their strength areas, what are their opportunities for growth, what's their background in finance and community engagement. Then we certainly ask for other categories as well. Have they ever been terminated or released, and all those things. One of the other pivotal things we ask in our references, whether we call or email or anything else, is who else should we talk to know more about this person, which gives us a lot of autonomy to track down other people that may have information. We're very transparent. Jeanette shared with you that summary that board members tend to like, because we try to summarize all the references and the qualifications on a page for each candidate. Then the other thing in this day and age I want to mention here is social media. And I could probably share stories on this, but we do a 7-year social media check through another company. But they do a public, for everybody panics, public social media check of any platform that a candidate may post on. And we are very transparent on your finalists. We just do it on finalists. But you will see everything in that report that we uncover, so there's no surprises. We think that's important. The other thing that is very unique to us, I can look you in the eyes and tell you with confidence that we have a very good track record of landing your top candidate. And I'm going to give a lot of that credit to this process. When we get down to, when we start the process, we talk about salary and benefits, so there's no surprises. And so when we're recruiting for you, we can have those conversations with candidates and not get a candidate where it's just not going to work. But in the end, we kind of flip it. And we say, these are your top candidates, board. So before they come in and interview, we ask them, what's your commitment to the job right now? And if it's not a 9 or 10 on this form, we're calling them. Don't waste their time. Don't come in and get people excited if you're not committed. And it's usually kids or a spouse that's nervous about a move. If we know that, then we can anticipate and kind of address some of their concerns up front. So that's critical. The other piece of this form that's critical is we ask them, what are you expecting if you get the job offer and how many year contract in salary and benefits? And so when you land on your top candidate, we simply pull out what we call their pre-negotiations form, and then we can help you efficiently negotiate that contract, which often is term, maybe insurance or salary, and get that offer and that acceptance hopefully turned around very quickly. And we're proud of that and been able to land most top candidates because of that.
Okay, and then the next thing we do want to talk about is just finally, as on that final support part, is what do we do to, and how do we handle this on these negotiation pieces? But what is the post-search? And we think that is very unique to MSBA, and so Catherine's going to talk about that.
Yes, it is very unique to MSBA, and I feel like it's one of the, no offense to them and all the hard work they will potentially do for you all, but I do feel like it's one of the most important things. You guys have had longevity in your superintendent. You're very lucky for that, but none of you have onboarded a new superintendent before. And a lot of board members don't know how to do that. And so that's something that we bring to the table, is how to onboard a new superintendent. Where'd the clicker go? There we go. Oh, thanks. So this is unique to what MSBA does, and that's why I feel like it's really special to be able to partner with you all potentially to do this search, is these post-search supports. And so here's kind of a list of what that would look like. The first is the new governance team workshop. I think it's really important for whoever, potentially new board members and superintendent come July 1st of next year, and having the 8 of you all in a room just kind of talking about what does a board meeting look like? How do we work backwards to plan it? What are the expectations of the board for the new superintendent? What should communication with the superintendent and the board look like and feel like? We like to come in and help have those conversations before the school year gets started. The other is an onboarding workshop. We've had that in Columbia. We also have come to you all and done that as well, where we do a deep dive into finance. What does it look like? Making sure your new superintendent understands what that is. Sometimes you get an out-of-state hire, and Missouri finance is much different than other state finances, and so making sure they're good with that. Same thing with APR. APR is unique to Missouri, so making sure they understand what MSIP 6 is and what all of these acronyms stand for. And then the next one is 6 months of superintendent evaluation support. It's really important to get that started immediately, and so all of those supports are included in your superintendent search. Other things is a finance data deep dive, superintendent liaison support ongoing. That would be with Jeanette, since she's here local in the Kansas City area. And then we also have, depending on the need, new leader board finance mentorship, which doesn't come included, but it is a discounted price if you all choose to utilize that. All right, and then the timeline.
Sure.
Mine's better than yours.
Sure. Thank you. I prefer that. Thank you so much. We did want to provide you a sample timeline because we want you to have an idea in your mind of what this is going to look like, because this is going to take time. And so as we look at this, that we have time built in to do the posting, as you will see. And so after the posting, and we have that, then we'll start the applications, and the recruitment process will begin. And then we want to start the community survey pretty quickly. We want to get that going because I want the community survey back. And if it's the will of the board, then we would host community forums for you. And that would include everything from your administrative team down to your communities and to your teacher leader groups. We wanted to talk to all of those if that is the will of the board. We would like to lead those for you. That way you have a very unbiased piece. If we have processes in place to make sure we hear all the voices, not just the loudest voice. So we want to make sure we're getting all of that feedback for you, and we would bring information back to you as a board and present that to you so you really know what those key things and key items and attributes that your community is looking for, which we think is key. Then also we would start to review the feedback and look at that. But then we'll start giving you the candidate pool. So remember I talked to you about the red, yellow, green sheets? We'll give you all those. We'll also send you all the applications too, so that you can look through those, and we'll provide you those summaries. We would have the screening interviews, and then our recommendation would be, after the winter break, would be to do the interviews. This is simply a draft, just to give you an idea of the timeline. This is simply strictly up to you guys and what you'd like to do. There's advantages and disadvantages that we'd like to share with you about when you close and when you host your interviews and your screening, so we can have that conversation. And then the next thing was around just the MSB, and that is listed on here also. And so our cost for our search would be $22,000. And when you talk about a fee structure, MSBA's is very simple. This is the total cost. All the supports that Catherine was talking about is included. All of those different pieces are all included in this cost. The only additional cost you would possibly have would be if you wanted to bring in candidates, it would be just their transportation coming in. So that would be the only thing you'd have. I think the other thing that's very unique is the guarantee. In this day and age, unfortunately, not everything always works out. Our goal is for it to work out, but just in case it would not work out, if you have done those things that were in yellow, so the new governance training, the onboarding workshop, and then the evaluation support, then for $2,000 we would do another search for you for the next year if that was needed. I don't believe that would ever be the case for you, but we want to have that just in case. We always want to have a backup plan. So that really is the total cost that you would have. It's a very simple structure. And then some of the questions were just around, what does a successful search look like? And we've talked about this a lot. A lot of it is just about collective work. It's about us working with you and working with your community. And I cannot stress enough communication and transparency. That is really when you get the buy-in from your community, is when you're really sharing with them everything we know, every step of the way, and what's the information that we have. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can be on all that. And then also, just the board's role. The board being committed to doing the work. And it is work. But having that out there for you is just super important for us to have. It is a unifying time. It's assuring, and it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time that we can introduce your new superintendent to bring you and your community together. So we think it's one of the best that you can do. So in the end, honestly, we do feel like it is an MSBA advantage for all the different aspects that we provide to you and all the support that we would do, and we hope that you will consider us. We're open for any questions that you might have.
I had one question, and I don't know that we haven't talked about it that I know of. It might be as simple as it sounds, but the difference between an open or closed search.
Sure. In general, an open search is when your finalist names are public. A closed search are where your finalist names just aren't made public, but you certainly would announce, who gets hired as soon as an offer is accepted. In a nutshell, that's an open versus closed search.
Advantages and disadvantages to both. For some candidates, because many of your candidates are going to be sitting superintendents, and so they don't want to fracture the relationship they have. So there are some advantages for having it closed. But there's advantages to having it open or having it open when you get to the finalist stage. So that can be handled in a couple of different ways.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. If there's no questions, we just want to say thank you so much. We appreciate this opportunity to present to you, and we look forward to hopefully working with you in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. The tiered candidate selection process is something that each reference I contacted complimented them on. They said that that was just made it so much easier to narrow down their candidate. So it was really nice to see the paper and hear them describe that.
I also like the fact that we will see every applicant. I don't know that the other group mentioned that or that we even had that question, but I did like that they pointed that out.
It's not fair because this was not asked of of Mac and Jake, but the 14, the average number of applicants per search feels really low to me, and I don't know what is common, and like I said, it's not really fair because we didn't hear that stat from the other organization, but I'm assuming none of us have any idea what a normal amount of applicants would be.
I thought the same thing. I thought it was kind of low. I'm like, I hope we see more than that.
I would imagine it's lower for smaller districts and higher.
Right, that those
so
smaller ones
a
will probably bring
median
the
might have
average
been,
down.
and maybe we should have asked for districts of our size approximately.
I agree. I anticipated more Missouri based. So.
I did notice that background checks weren't covered or anything like that, and I know Mac and Jake had a more extensive process for that. I didn't see like actual formal checks or social media or any, or no, he did talk social media, but not the, yeah, just regular background check. I'm not. It says verify candidate background and review CaseNet and social media history. No, that's just the online Missouri court system. And just to clarify, that was only the additional one copy of the schedule, because each of us had our packets that they prepared, all 7 of them, like folder and everything. Yeah, it was just that one additional.
piggybacking onto that, sorry. I appreciated that MSBA was prepared to show the audience as well. They had a presentation on screen, so.
Just, you know, we've got 14,000 students, not 1,400. Not making a big deal out of that, but covering a lot of information. But speaking of small nuances, I'm like, that's tremendously different. So anyway, I do appreciate the familiarity that MSBA would have with us. I think there are positives and some pause in there. I really am interested in seeing a really vast, widespread net focused on our next leader, and maybe MSBA can bring that to us. Maybe not, I don't know. But I was really impressed with the previous presentation, slightly more than what I just saw. So.
I did like Mac and Jake's stakeholder engagement process. It felt much more extensive, and I think that that is something that our community has really placed a lot of value on. And I think it would be important to ensure that we do a good job at that.
If I could just, not necessarily echo, but just add on to that. I'm just making a statement. It does not have any respect to MSBA or any other candidate or any other resource that we might have. But I really found Mac and Jake to be, it's just something moved me deeply about believing what they're saying. I truly, truly believe that they're committed and truly believe in transparency. Something deeply moved me when they were speaking about their process, their experience, and their commitment to really involving our community, our board, our administration, our students. I just really feel strongly convinced that they're believable and that their work will truly benefit ISD's next selection. So.
I also think it's great that one of our former superintendents is a consultant. So, I mean, it gives, I think, both sides of that. Like, you've got the Missouri connection along with a nationwide search.
And I'll also add pause that MSBA has worked directly with us as a board in some of our planning and some of our challenges as a board. And so I do think that unfortunately, a lot of those challenges were not resolved and continue to persist even after that. And not that that was them, but that, well, yes, they will have insight into some of our challenges. I keep using that word. I also don't feel that where we used them brought us much benefit when we did do that in the past. So it might be helpful to try something different.
I guess my question is, how do we do it? Do we vote?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Are we gonna, do we want to vote? Do we want to use the rubric
would suggest we all share who got the highest rubric, and I'm not sure, because we can't vote on it until we're in open session, because this is, well, I guess,
But we need to make a decision on who we will choose in open session. So if we want to do that in open session, we'll do a roll call vote in open session, we can do that. But we should talk about that process. What do you want that to look like?
I think we just vote, honestly, as to which one of the two.
when the agenda item comes up, somebody moves for one of them. Yes.
Just going back, I guess, on our last meeting where each board member went through, and I think at that time we whittled it down to the two, so you guys would just say, this will be my first, this will be my second, and just tally those up to that point.
Yeah.
And do that in during open session.
Yes, yeah.
And see if we're in consensus, and if not,
I suppose we would need a motion to that effect during the open session?
do we want to take temperatures before that happens, or do we just wait and share it then?
I'm willing to share that I feel like both firms gave good presentations. I feel like we have had experience with SBA and they have delivered. They have followed through with all of our requests and provided the services that we requested. And so I don't know that I feel like we haven't received that. Now, did we get the outcome that we had hoped to get? Maybe not. But I still believe that what they did for us was within what we asked them to do. I feel like I feel more confident with MSBA and the things that they provided us today. Even I felt like those are all things that I was hoping to see from the presentation. So
I don't know why, but I feel like their availability to us, almost at a moment's notice, would be better, easier, quicker than M&J maybe. Who knows, that's speculation.
Can you clarify on what you mean by at a moment's notice?
Just not maybe a moment's notice, but quickly, like we need to have a meeting next week. Would you be able to come be here with us? They have shown that in the past that they are available.
I am leaning toward McPherson and Jacobson. They've scored higher to me on my rubric. I think it's very important that one of our challenges that has been culture, and I think it's really important that we expand our scope from and not choose someone who's too close. And I know we all love MSBA, fantastic conferences, so much education, but I think there's value in moving outside of our box a little bit, especially if they're going to price match.
I'll go ahead. I already made some points, but I do think, for me, the most important piece is stakeholder input, and I felt like M&J had a better package of that, and also think that the price match is a great, like, that was another piece that I was concerned with, but if they're price matching, then we're good.
I think M&J just laid out a more substantial process.
Lastly, were you going to say anything? Okay. Lastly, I just wanted to emphasize for those who may not know, we do have a relationship with MSBA where we can reach out to them for resources at any point. So we have an existing relationship, and we can continue to rely on them based on that agreement and relationship that we already have. So be it we select them or not, we're not losing resources or their commitment to this district by any means. This is a different phase of their support, and I think it speaks highly of them to be considered in our top two considerations in this process anyway. It does speak to how well they work. My position in this aligns somewhat to Director Baird's, as they've been up close with some of our challenges, and we do appreciate the work that they've offered in alignment with President Dixon's statements. They did what they were asked to do, and that's that. I do think it would be advantageous for us to think just in a different scope about what we're bringing to this city and how critical it's going to be to show up differently and be very intentional about that effort in this time. I think it's a critical time for this city across the board in many different ways, as we can see while looking at social media, the news. There's just a lot of change, and I think we really should take a deep look into those things. I also want to close with this. I don't think or imagine that there are any things that were mentioned by either groups that we couldn't bring to our ideal group and say, hey, could you include this or change, tweak, or add? So just to kind of throw that out there and keep that in mind.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.